So the 5 main grief models that we work with here at Treetops is the dual process model, Warden's 4 tasks, the Tonkin model, which is often lovely called the fried egg model. We have the continuum bonds and the river of life. They're the models that we like to use and give training on, because I think all of those, a combination of all of those, gives a really good overview of what's happening with somebody when they're going through their own grief.
So Tonkin's model was developed by a GP originally, and it explains how people can grow new life around their grief. So commonly held belief about grief is that it will get better with time, and the assumption there is that your grief somehow gets smaller or diminishes, but that's not everyone's experience. And so often what people find is that their grief sort of stays the same in lots of ways. It feels just as significant, their loss feels just as significant years later as it did initially, but often what happens is we as people grow new life around our grief, and that new life, those new relationships, new opportunities, new way of doing things builds a bit of resilience and allows us to support ourselves and support the weight of that grief. So we often talk at Treetops about learning to live alongside grief, and I guess the fried egg model is a good way of describing that, really. And the reason it's called the fried egg model, lovingly, is that the grief, if you imagine the grief to be a circle, the white, so the yolk of an egg, the white of the egg is the new life that's growing around it. So initially that white might be quite small, but over time it's that bit that grows, really, and it's not a uniform shape, so it can look a little bit like a fried egg.
And we often draw it for clients as well. So in the session we can draw it. So and when you draw it, it does look like a fried egg.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think another good one that clients really relate to is the dual process model, because what that talks about is that you actually oscillate in grief in what they call the loss orientation and the restoration orientation. And there's an expectation that in that model that you will oscillate between the two. Right at the beginning of grief, there's a lot of oscillation, and being able to give that psychoeducation to clients to understand and give them those models helps them actually understand what they're going through. It can feel very chaotic and messy when you're right at the beginning of grief. So being able to tell people to say, yes, we can see you're really oscillating, because they'll say 1 minute I'm okay, then I'm not, and I'm okay again, then I'm not. So that can make people feel very disorientated and almost feel like they're going a little bit mad. So when we explain the model to people and say that this is what we would expect and this is normal in grief, it kind of gives that reassurance for people and puts their minds to rest. And over time what happens is that oscillation does slow down. You'll spend less time in the loss orientation and more time in the restoration, and that fits nice with the fried egg model, because that's where you grow a new life and you're sort of like moving on from the grief.